I will wait another couple of minutes before we get started. And please feel free to write questions during the presentation in the chat line, in the chat thread, whatever we want to call it, the chat box, and I'll answer them when I'm done. For those of you who are watching, my name is Ian Cummings, and I'm a Central Coast resident, and I'm the project director of LoyalTeach, which is a nonprofit project that provides tutoring, private tutoring, and college counseling of the kind that people pay lots of money for, but we make it affordable to everybody, regardless of income level. Natalie Figueroa entered the session. Hello, Natalie. Nice to see you. We're going to wait another moment or two. Natalie, my name is Ian Cummings. Nice to meet you. All right, let's go ahead and get started since it's 6:02. I think there's just a couple of you here, which is just fine. So I'm going to share this with you. Oh, wait, first I got to share my screen. Okay. Sharing my screen. Here we go. Okay. I believe I'm sharing my screen. So I'm going to ask one more time. Would you just write me a note to confirm that you can see this presentation that says private college as a public good? Great. Thank you. Here we go. Get started. Okay. So why low-income high achievers should apply to private schools? Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is what's called the undermatching problem. I'm going to go to a smaller screen on that so we can see the whole thing. What this screen shows you is the way people apply to college based on income. So this column is regards high income, high achieving students. And up here, it says, you probably can't read it, but it says apply to no schools that are a fit for them academically. And that 11 means 11%. So among high income, high achievers, only 11% of students don't apply to a school that is one that serves other high achieving students. The vast majority of high achieving, high income students, about 2/3, apply to a mix of schools, an appropriate mix of schools, including some that they're essentially sure to get into, some that they're likely to get into, and some that are very selective and are what we call reach schools. The numbers look very different for low-income students of the same achievement level. Only 8% apply to schools, that appropriate mix of schools. 64% of high-income high achievers do, only 8% of low-income high achievers do. In fact, the majority of low-income high achievers don't apply to any schools that serve other people of their achievement level. And another 40% or so apply what's called idiosyncratically, like they might apply to a community college and Harvard and nothing in between. Okay, well, why does it matter? It matters because we know that low-income high achievers have their best outcomes at highly selective schools. This is not true for most students. For most students, where they go to college has no long-term impact on them. That's true. Even though people spend huge amounts of anxiety and time and money trying to get into selective colleges, it actually doesn't matter for most people. But for low-income students, it matters. Okay, first, we know that low-income high achievers do just as well when they go to selective colleges as high-income students with the same achievement levels. So it's not that they can't compete somehow. Okay. We also know that they have better outcomes compared to what happens if they go to other schools. And here's where you can see that. As you can see, these are graduation rates for high-achieving students who go to highly selective colleges, non-selective colleges, and so forth. And these are wealthy students, and these are low-income students. You can see from the blue line that for high-income students, again, where they go to college doesn't matter very much. They have high graduation rates regardless of where they go to college. Low-income students, as they go to less selective colleges, their graduation rates drop precipitously. These are low-income students who are all high achieving. They have the same achievement level, right? But their graduation rates drop precipitously if they go to less selective colleges. Why is that? Well, part of it is, here's instructional expenditures per student at selective institutions. The most selective institutions are able to spend $27,000 per student on instruction. And you can see the numbers are much smaller for less competitive schools, less selective schools. Okay. And we also see that where students attend college really matters in terms of economic mobility for low-income students. This is a line that shows what happens with all children. If you're born poor, you tend to stay poor. Not quite as poor, you move up some, but you don't move up a ton, right? But if you're born poor and you attend selective colleges, you end up not poor, okay? These selective colleges are almost levelers, right? In other words, this is where someone who's born very poor and attends the most selective private colleges ends up well above median in terms of their income and almost as well off in terms of income as someone who's born very rich and goes to the same colleges. And here's the thing that surprises students the most. For low-income, high-achieving students, the most selective schools are also their most affordable options, essentially. And that's because of the difference between sticker price and net price. These gray bars represent the sticker price for various levels of colleges, from community college to non-selective colleges to the most selective colleges. These blue bars represent the net cost for someone who is low income. And as you can see, as schools become more competitive, their sticker price continues to rise. But their net cost for low income students, first it goes up, but as schools become more competitive, it goes down. So that the net cost for the most selective colleges for low income students is actually about the same, even a little bit lower than the net cost for community college. Okay? Shocking for many, many people, but that's because the most selective colleges have lots of money and they can provide all the financial aid that their students need. Why are outcomes better at these at these private colleges for low-income high achievers? We already talked about they have more available resources. The schools tend to be smaller. You're surrounded by peers who are all other high achievers. And in many cases, I think it's also about getting away from home. For many low-income students, if they go to college near home, they have many family demands and demands from friends that make it difficult for them to focus on their education. Okay, so things you need to know. Not all private schools are super wealthy and will be able to meet the full financial need of a low-income student. But some will be able to. Here's a list. Now, this list changes some from year to year as the financial conditions of the colleges change. Unfortunately, next year, some of these colleges will probably not be able to meet the full financial need. But as of a few years ago, this was the list of colleges and universities that meet 100% of financial need, or close to it. There's a few here that are in red or black that get close to it. What does this mean? It means that if you, from the college's perspective, after you filled out your financial aid forms, can only afford to pay $1,000 a year to attend their college, then that's what you will pay, right? The public colleges cannot actually offer that guarantee, but these private schools can, or at least they get very close. Now, what you'll note as you look at this list is that many of these colleges are colleges you have never heard of, yet they are excellent, excellent colleges. So one thing that low-income high achievers need to do is get educated about all the tremendous private colleges that are out there. The other thing you'll note is that while some of them are in California, many of them are not. And so low-income high achievers, if you're looking for the most affordable education possible, it's advisable to consider, am I willing to leave California? It's not absolutely necessary because there are some in California. Here's one. Here's a couple, actually. There's 3 in a row: Occidental, Pitzer, Pomona, all in LA County. But broadening the area or the areas of the country in which you're willing to go to can help you get the most affordable education possible. The other thing that students might ask is, geez, if I go to a private college, aren't private colleges just for rich kids? Are they going to even notice me? Are they going to know how to serve me? I want you to know that many, many private colleges are very attuned to the needs of low-income students, of first-gen students. So here's an example of a program. This is Vassar College, a private college in New York, which is very committed to serving low-income students, has the reputation of being one of the schools in the country that is most committed to serving low-income students. And you can see they have a program called the Transitions Program, a comprehensive 4-year program for first-generation low-income and or undocumented students. Students are initially invited to join the program, but anyone is welcome to join once they're on campus. We focus on building community and creating a sense of belonging amongst these populations. Okay, this is just an example. Many, many colleges, almost every college that I'm talking about has specific programs intended to serve low-income students, first-generation students, and so forth. They want you to show up. They want to diversify and to be truly diverse. All right, I'm going to share Erica's story with you here. I'm going to go over to the Loyal Teach Facebook page. I'm going to check for a second just to assure myself someone's still watching. Yes, a few of you are still watching. That's wonderful. This is Erica. I got to know Erica 2 years ago in December of her senior year at Santa Maria High School. Very high achieving student, very driven. And when I started working with her, she was doing that sort of idiosyncratic college application plan. She was applying to some private schools, but the only private schools she was applying to were the ones she had heard of. And those, of course, are the most famous ones, Harvard, Stanford, whatever. And she certainly had a chance at getting into any of those schools. I told her, look, you have the right, that you've earned the right to apply to those schools, but very, very few people get in. It's not likely that you're going to get in. It's not likely that any applicant is going to get in. So what I let her know is there are other private schools in the country that you've never heard of that are also able to meet full financial need of low-income students. One of them that I thought would be a great match for her was the University of Rochester in upstate New York. Erica is interested in becoming a doctor. University of Rochester has an excellent pre-med program. She had never heard of the school, but she did add it to her common application, did apply, did get in, did get all the financial aid she needs, loves it, is in her second year now. She will graduate debt-free. Just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for her. Erica would have been okay had she never heard of University of Rochester. She probably would be attending Cal Poly today, which is fine, great school. But she's actually attending University of Rochester at less cost than Cal Poly would have been for her. And as you note here, she says about Rochester, it's as close to perfect it's as close as it gets to perfect for the college experience that I want. So she's super, super happy there. Okay. Other things you need to know about as a low income, high achiever. One of the things you might say is, I'd love to learn more about some of these schools, but I'd want to visit them. I wouldn't want to ever go to a school that I haven't visited. And of course, right now in this strange year, nobody can visit colleges. But hopefully soon we'll have the coronavirus in check, and that will be possible again. And it's possible even for low-income students, because many of the schools we're talking about have what are called fly-in programs. Okay, here's a list. Look at all these schools that have what are called fly-in programs. These are schools all around the country that actually will pay for low-income first-generation students to come visit their schools. You have to apply for these programs. You have to be admitted to these programs, but you can do it. So, for instance, if you're a junior, hopefully next year, these programs will be available again. And next summer, you would be able to apply. And in the fall of your senior year of high school, you might have the opportunity to fly to schools at no cost, to schools in other parts of the country for an overnight program that would introduce you to the school. I have worked with students who have done this. Another thing that low-income students really need to know about is early decision and early action admission options. Many of them don't know about these options for low-income students. For private school applicants, sorry. Particularly useful for low-income students. People who apply early to private schools tend to get in at higher rates than those who apply for the regular deadline. And those people who know about these early admission options usually are wealthier students. So if low-income students know about these options, they're going to get admitted at higher rates. Really good to know about. If you're a junior, you want to be thinking about, maybe I can figure out what college I really want to go to and apply in October of next year. If you're a senior, you would need to do it in the next few days. Also important to know that small colleges, many of these selective colleges are very small. They might be smaller than your high school. They have admission representatives working for particular regions and sometimes working specifically with students of color or low-income students or first-gen students. It's a much more personal process than, say, the UC admission process. You can get to know people at these colleges who will go to bat for you because they know you before you ever even apply. And then another thing to know about is LoyalTeach. There are programs like this one and other programs around the country that I can point you to that serve low-income students at no or low cost, provide the kind of academic mentoring and college counseling that is normally only available to students from families who can pay very, very high prices for those services. Okay. Let's see. I think that is the end of my presentation. So I'm going to come back over here and see if you have questions. Matt, I see your question is, what is the definition of low income? Okay, really good question. And the truth is, this is I better stop sharing my screen so you won't get this infinite mirror effect. There's no clear bar for this. This session is really useful not just for low-income students, but even for sort of potentially for middle-income students. When my son, my family is not low income, but we're not high income. We're just sort of a middle-class family. We're educators. When my son applied to college, he was really interested in going to UC Santa Cruz, which had the lowest sticker price of all the colleges he applied to by far. I think he applied to 11 colleges. By far, it had the lowest sticker price. After he got all his admission offers and the financial aid offers, UC Santa Cruz went from being his most affordable option to one of his most expensive options, because the other schools he was admitted to were private schools, and they offered enough financial aid that to meet his full need. So, this is really useful to know if you can afford to pay nothing for college. And it's also really useful to know if you can afford to pay $10,000 for college or $15,000 for college, right? If that's what you can afford, then a private school may end up being the place that you can go to and pay that rather than a public school. Now, I don't mean to discourage you from applying to public schools as well. I work with low-income students who have also found affordable routes to the UCs and the Cal States. But that's usually involves scoring outside scholarships from other sources to meet the gap that exists between the financial aid that the UC or Cal State provides them and their ability to pay. So sometimes they find a way to afford it by filling in that gap with money they make working in the summer, during the school year, outside scholarships that end up totaling a few $1,000s and so forth. But if you're chasing financial aid, the number one way to chase financial aid is not by going after scholarships. It's by applying to the right colleges. And I should also say that while most of the colleges that meet full financial need are pretty selective colleges, some are not highly selective. So for instance, Beloit College in Wisconsin is an excellent school which meets the full financial need of its students. And average GPA, I think, of its freshmen is about a B+, about a 3.3, right? So you still got to be a good student to get in there, but you don't have to be a top of the line student, okay? Another thing I wanted to mention, by the way, is that one of the schools on the list that I showed you about colleges that meet full financial need or get very close, one of those schools is Lafayette College, which has a presenter in the expo here. So if you want to go talk to someone from a college you may never have heard of that is one of the schools that I'm talking about, there's someone here tonight. You can go talk to someone, the representative from Lafayette College, and you can say, hey, do you serve? I'm pretty low income or moderate income. Would you be able to meet the financial need of my family if I got in there? Ask them something about that. Let's see. Oh, okay. Let's see. Are there other questions? Somebody else want to know anything about this topic or about Loyal Teach and what we do here on the Central Coast? Sure, Matt. You're welcome. Okay. Well, I'll certainly be here for a few more minutes. I'll keep the session open. If I see there are about 9 of you here. If any of you have questions for me, please feel free to ask. You can also contact me anytime through the website, which is linked in the chat box. Sure, Yesenia, you're welcome. Thanks for coming, folks.